Chapter 29. It's what Elena calls a glorious day. The sky is clear blue with some big white floating clouds. She and the high priest are walking down a road leading to the cemetery gate. She's carrying the little pharaoh. He's carrying a rolled-up blanket, a large basket, and me in the pet carrier bag. The gate is ajar. Elena pushes it open and we enter. On the left side is a cottage. "This is the caretaker's home," she says. She knocks on the door. No answer. "I wonder if Bill still lives here. He was an old man when I knew him. Maybe he now dwells in another part of the cemetery." The high priest opens the door of the carrier bag. I jump out, but stay on all fours, just in case someone should come by. The cemetery seems a playing field where sun and shade compete. Some graves lie in bright sunlight, others in the long shadows of cypress trees. The only sounds are the birds chirping and the crunch of our steps on the gravel. There's a smell of burning leaves in the air. I feel at peace here, and imagine that Nefertiti too is at peace. The graves are encircled by tall, verdant grass speckled with wild flowers. As we move among the graves, Elena explains that some are more than 200 years old. She leads us up a hill to a red granite column, which she says is a Victorian monument. It looks about 4 feet tall. Inlaid in its swirls are bits of colored glass. There are many gaps left by the bits that have fallen out over the years. "When I was a child," Elena says ruefully as she pushes a loose blue bit back into place with the index finger of her free hand, "I believed that these were precious jewels." As she turns to leave, the blue bit falls out. We go down the hill and turn onto a path that forks. Elena goes left. The high priest and I follow her. "This is the spot," she says after a few minutes, "where my parents and I would have our picnic." On the spot stands a tall, full cypress tree. "Oh, my friend, how you have grown." The tree sways in the wind. If it could talk, I believe it would say, "You've grown too, little Elena. It's been so long since I last saw you that I hardly recognize you. You're quite a lady now. Is this strange group your family?" Elena rests a hand on the trunk of the tree. She's lost in thought. The high priest takes a kerchief out of his pocket and gently wipes the tears from her face. "We had such a good time here, my parents and I. Now you will have a good time with us." Gott Hamen. You always know the right thing to say. Always? I disagree, but I keep it to myself. "Let's begin our good time, then," Elena says, her voice joyful. Holding the little pharaoh in one arm, she uses the other to take the rolled-up blanket from the high priest. He puts down the basket and the carrier bag and helps her spread the blanket on the grass. She puts the little pharaoh on the blanket and sets the basket in the middle. "Let's all sit." When we've settled, she opens the basket. The delicious aroma makes me salivate. John has prepared our picnic, and if there's something he excels at, it's preparing delicious meals. Elena takes out 3 multicolored paper plates and 3 sets of plastic cutlery and puts them on the blanket. Next, she takes out small sandwiches, ham and pickles, boiled eggs and watercress, smoked salmon and butter, along with a whole roast chicken and small packages of potato chips. When I think the basket is empty, she takes out a tray containing an assortment of cheeses, blue, white, yellow, surrounded by grapes. Now I'm salivating uncontrollably. I stretch my forepaws toward the chicken, but Elena is faster and puts her hand in front of my paws. "First, we're having a toast. You must keep your palate clean." With all the salivating I've been doing, my palate couldn't be cleaner. As if handling a sacred object, she takes a bundle of tissue paper out of the basket and unwraps 3 glasses. These were Nefertiti's. They're old Venetian glasses from a service of 24. In the same careful manner, she takes a container out the basket and opens the lid. She removes a bottle of wine, wet from the ice, and hands to the high priest. He pushes under the cork, which is fat and round, with his thumbs. After he struggles for several seconds, the cork shoots out with a loud pop and flies between my ears. I quickly turn around to see it hit a gravestone. I recall an incident thousands of years ago in Egypt when the pharaoh and I were jumping up and down on a mattress made of a hippo skin filled with air. The cork popped out of the hippo's ass and hit the vizier on the forehead. I'm relishing the memory when Elena's cry brings me back, or forward to the present. "Quick, quick! Pour it in the glasses! Foaming white wine is coming out of the bottle. I've never seen wine like this before, I say. It's champagne. Bollinger Grand Année, 1990. Nefertiti had quite a few bottles of it in her wine cellar. As Elena pours milk into a small mug for the little pharaoh and hands it to him, the high priest manages to pour the champagne into the glasses. Only a little spills on the blanket. He, Elena, and I each take a glass. To the memory of Nefertiti, says Elena, raising her glass. The high priest and I raise our glasses. The little pharaoh raises his mug. We all tap our glasses against his mug. He giggles. To Nefertiti, we say in unison. The little pharaoh giggles again. I take a sip of the bubbling liquid. I take another sip, then another. The bubbles travel up my nose and explode in my head. I sip and sip till my glass is empty. Let's have another glass, old chap, I tell the high priest, who quickly obliges. Elena gives me a chicken wing. It's salty, just the way I like it. And this liquid gold goes so well with it. Very well indeed. Ah, this is the life. Good food, good drink, good company, and a beautiful bucolic view. The cottage with its red tile roof, a pond and a field where a large reddish-brown horse and a gray donkey are grazing. The sandwiches are delicious, especially the smoked salmon. But all this salty food has made me thirsty. The bottle is nearby. I pour myself another glass. Heavens, this stuff is delicious. I begin to hiccup. Rapa Hamen? Elena asks. You aren't drunk, are you? Drunk, you say? I reply, raising my glass. Just a bit inebriated. Elena shakes her head. I wish she wouldn't do that. It's making me dizzy. She's also shaking a finger at me, or is it two fingers? She mumbles something that sounds like, I have two babies, not one. The high priest doesn't look like a baby. Sometimes Elena makes no sense. The last thing I remember before passing out is tepid coffee being poured down my throat. When I wake up, my head hurts. It feels as if someone has hit it. Looking at the sun's position in the sky, I guess I've slept a couple of hours. Elena and the high priest are sleeping with the little pharaoh nestled between them, contentedly, with his thumb in his mouth. Nefertiti's glass eye hangs from a gold chain around Elena's neck. I coughed it up some time ago, along with the fur ball, and asked John to make it into a pendant for her. I'm reminiscing about the day I swallowed the eye, when I hear the rustle of leaves coming from behind the bushes at the far end of the cemetery. A small doe breaks through the bushes and looks at me. When I get up, she runs away. She's agile and light. She runs around or jumps over the gravestones in her way. I follow her. Stuffed and hung over, I'm slow and clumsy. The doe stops, as if waiting for me to catch up. I move closer. When I'm close enough to see her dark liquid eyes and twitching nose, off she goes. Chasing her, I've entered a part of the cemetery completely surrounded by trees. The branches have created a cupola. There's no grass on the ground, only a carpet of dead leaves. It's dark in here. The graves are hard to see. The only light is a single sunbeam stealing through the thick branches. It falls upon a sarcophagus. Like all the others, it's almost completely covered by ivy and other vine plants. I walk over to it and pull the ivy away from the spot the sunbeam has lit up. In Memoriam, Nefertiti. 1370 BC, 2015 AD. I let go of the ivy, and the engraving is covered again. Farewell, my queen, farewell, I say as I leave the sacred place to return to my family. The lightest drizzle has begun to fall. I stop in front of a statue of a young woman, the white of the stone stained by the moss growing over it. The young woman is looking skyward. Her hair falls in waves to her shoulders. Her arms are crossed on her chest, like a mummy. Her robe covers her entire body, its heavy folds gathered about her bare feet. I see the pond in the distance. The raindrops create small circles as they hit the water. The horse and the donkey are being led to the stable. Farther away on the hills are the houses of Bathwick, half hidden by the trees. Even farther to the left, the city of Bath nestles in a valley and reaches up into the steep hills. The rain seems to have intensified all the colors, the greens of the fields and the trees, the red tiles on the cottage roofs, the various shades of the stones. It's also made the setting melancholy. But still, I want to stand here under the rain and look on it forever.
Rappahannock!
It's Elena. I turn and see the familiar trio. She's lugging the carrier bag and the food basket. The high priest is carrying the little pharaoh in his arms. The picnic blanket is over their heads.
We'd better get going,
Elena warns.
It looks as though it might begin to pour any minute. Typical English weather.
She puts the carrier bag down and points to a man in the field.
Is that old Bill?
She raises her hand as if she's about to call to him, but she doesn't.
Are you not going to see if it is Bill?
The high priest asks when she puts her hand down. She shakes her head as she picks up the carrier bag. She's thinking that the man might be Bill, but then he might not be. She'd rather be in doubt than risk finding out he's gone. I can read her thoughts because I'm thinking along the same lines. I'm afraid that if I take her and the high priest to Nefertiti's grave, it won't be there. I don't want to risk discovering that it was only a drunken hallucination and have Elena lecture me on the dangers of drinking too much. She and I keep our doubts to ourselves as we leave the cemetery and she pulls the gate closed.